All right, so on the guest line, we've got Anthony Gonzalez. Obviously, a lot of you remember him, studied at Ohio State, first-round pick with the Colts, played in the league for a while. Now he's a congressman from his native Ohio, and he is introducing an NIL bill, national legislation for name, image, and likeness. Congressman Gonzalez. It's Ross Tucker. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. Anthony is perfectly fine.
I was just going to ask. Now they're giving me the head nod. So, do you you don't get offended when people don't call you congressman?
No, I just there's a lot worse things people call me, so I'm fine with anything. But no, my first name is preferred. I think it's too formal. I mean, we're representatives. We shouldn't be formalized like that, in my opinion.
All right. Anyway. Well, I like that, Anthony, because I was going to ask you, I was curious if when you're around other congressmen, if it's like the medical scene in Spies Like Us, where you're like, congressman. Is it like that or not at all?
Thank God it's not. This place is broken in a million ways, but not quite like that.
Okay, good. All right. Speaking of broken, Anthony, a lot of people feel like the college football model as it relates to student athletes has been broken for quite some time, and you're the one actually doing something about it. So I've read a little bit about it. I know you're all over this. I'm pretty familiar with name, image, and likeness, but I want you to actually explain the bill that you are trying to get passed. What does it really say?
So it does a handful of things. Our goal is to extend the economic right, which I think is a natural right. Every single person in this country has it except for the college athlete, as far as I know. Maybe some people don't, but as far as I know, it's just college athletes excluded. So we're going to extend that right, but we're going to do it in a way that preserves college sports. So what does that mean? That means having restrictions on recruitment. So I don't think you should have boosters in high schools telling kids they're going to pay them a whole bunch of money to come to XYZ school. So there'll be penalties that prevent that from happening. But also on the same side of that, we're going to have some parity in there to make sure that the kids are getting the same opportunities that some of the universities do. And just preserve the system as we know it. And I think it'll work for everybody. I think it'll work for college football, but I think it'll work for my wife as a college swimmer. I think it would help her. She'd be able to teach swim lessons now. So just the basic premise is let's do one national standard, not 50 states with different standards, which is what we have right now. But let's have one national standard. Let's preserve recruitment. Let's preserve the system. It's a great system and move forward.
Well, so the one standard nationally is absolutely the way to go. I would like to think that the NCAA is backing you and supports that part of it, because if it's state by state, that's an absolute mess. I guess what I don't understand, Anthony, is how do you prevent the recruiting part of it? Like, how do you prevent Ohio State or Alabama or whoever saying to a 17-year-old, 16-year-old, hey, part of the scholarship offer is we'll also guarantee you $25,000 a year, name, image, and likeness. I don't understand how you combat that.
Well, you make it a federal crime. So, I mean, it would be a federal crime to do exactly what you just said, which means that the person could be criminally or civilly liable, the individual, and the university could be on the hook for that if it's directly tied to the university. So I think, the thing I keep saying is let's extend the right. And if people abuse it in the recruitment process, then you got to bring the hammer down on them. There has to be real teeth there. Can't just be a small penalty. And so we're going to have that in our bill as well. But look, I mean, it's like anything. There's going to be people who are going to try to work around that. And there's going to be people who try to game the system. So the best we can do is be very clear on what's legal and what's illegal and make sure that there's penalties in place.
So, okay, so then you have some penalty in place if they use the NIL, if they have an NIL guarantee, or if they have NIL enticement when they're recruits. This is something I have a recruiting business, Go Big Recruiting. So I talk to a lot of college coaches about this. The question is, what will the level of involvement be for the colleges themselves and the coaching staff, or are they completely out of it? Am I just saying to a Penn State player or whatever, I live in Pennsylvania, am I just saying, hey, I'll give you $5,000 to tweet this? Or am I going through the program so someone's monitoring it?
So you'd have to go through the program. I mean, that's the general idea. And one other thing worth mentioning, the coaches in the universities, they will not be providing these opportunities. Now, what I suspect will happen, and I hope happens, is they'll feel the responsibility to make sure that the kids are doing legitimate opportunities and have help with things like paying taxes. I mean, when we were in college, I never paid we didn't pay taxes because we didn't have this stuff. So they're going to have to all of a sudden mature on some of these just sort of basic adult activities, like paying taxes and managing money. I hope the universities will help with that. But with respect to providing NIL opportunities, that would be illegal under our bill. This is going to be the kids and their agents or representatives managing that on their own, with the NCAA, providing some oversight, and then Congress stepping in if there's a violation of the law itself.
Talking with Congressman Anthony Gonzalez from Ohio, the former Colts and Ohio State wide receiver. Okay, so they will have agents or representatives. That was going to be one of my questions. Is there a limit, or is it sky's the limit?
Sky's the limit. I mean, I any limit that we put in place would feel arbitrary to me. So, let's open up the right. Let's allow for it, and I think it'll be managed correctly. I just fundamentally believe that these kids, if they have the right representation and inside of sort of the support bubble that exists at a major college or major university, that they'll be able to handle it. I just believe that.
But I guess I don't understand, Anthony, how you stop, and maybe you're not supposed to, how you stop. Again, you went to Ohio State. That's why I'm using the example. There's a car dealership in Columbus, and they give every guy, it's a big booster. He loves Ohio State football. He gives every guy $50,000 a year to sign autographs one day, even though he's not really getting a return on the investment. It's not really a business proposition for the guy. It's just boosterism. Is that totally legal and fine, or is that a problem?
No, that would be a problem. So again, it would depend on the individual circumstance, right? But anything that looks like inducements and sort of not fair market value, which you're describing, that would run afoul. But if it's what would be termed sort of a legitimate enterprise, where it's, hey, you're going to do this radio show every week for 10 weeks, and we're going to pay you X dollars per radio show. That would be in the legitimate category, and then they could go forward with that. The other thing I'll say is, where you draw that line, I think, is probably the most interesting question. And admittedly, you can't. I don't believe we can draw it in Congress. So what we're going to do is just provide the right. We're going to create a commission that studies it for 2 years and then reports back to Congress saying, hey, here are the tweaks you need to make. Here's some of the changes. In the meantime, the NCAA and the institutions themselves will manage the answers to the questions that you're asking about. What's a legitimate endorsement opportunity versus what's just pure pay to play. That'll be legislated by them and then reported back to us, and we'll tweak the law if we have to.
What's the timeline? In other words, how soon could you get it passed, and how soon could it be enacted? Because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, aren't there some states where it should be legal soon?
Yeah, so this is why we need one national standard. So Mississippi and Florida, their laws go on the books in July. So if you're a student athlete in the state of Florida or Mississippi, you can start doing NIL as of July 1st. But if you're in any of the other 48 states, you can't. So that's going to create a chaos environment. And so we need something, I would argue we need something in the next couple of weeks or months. But Congress, being what Congress is, my sense is we won't get something until, I would say, end of this year at the earliest. And it could bleed into next year. But I do think we'll get it done in the next, call it, 12 months from today. I think we'll get it done.
Awesome. And the other thing you got going, I saw somewhere, you're also part of Ohio trying to legalize sports betting, right?
No, I'm not. So Pat McAfee asked me that question. I'm not. I gave an analysis of where that bill is. The state is going to do it. It's just a matter of when. So similar to NIL, but that's Ohio State House stuff. I'm United States Congress, so I stay out of their business. They don't want me poking around in it, and it works well that way. But I think they'll get it done.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. You're a congressman. You're not in the state of Ohio. That makes perfect sense. Anthony, this was awesome, man. I really, really appreciate it. Are you liking it? Are you loving it?
I do. So, it's a crazy job, as you can imagine. But look, every day I get to wake up and try to think of ways to make the country better. I mean, that's like, what could be better than that? I always say I like it more than football because, the goal is bigger and more profound. There's something cool about waking up every day and trying to win Super Bowls. Like, that's a pretty awesome thing. The only thing better than that I found professionally is this, where you get to wake up every day and try to make the country better. You got to deal with a lot of garbage in the meantime, but you still get the opportunity. So it's an amazing honor, and I do love it.
Are you by far the best athlete of the senators and congressmen?
I'd like to think so. I better be. I'm trying to think. There's some decent ones. But, I think I probably am. I feel confident saying that. I'm probably the best athlete.
How good of a cover guy is Biden?
I don't think get him in his back pedal. I don't think he's doing much. So,
Anthony, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. Very informative stuff.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, there he is, Congressman Anthony Gonzalez from Ohio, former Colt and Ohio State receiver.